Hi everyone, thanks for joining today and welcome to our webinar. So today we're going to be hosting a careers workshop and this will be focusing on how to succeed in an interview. My name is Rebecca Northeast and I'm the product manager here at Proteintech and I'll be hosting today. And then with me I have Dr. Charlie Arber, who is a fellow at UCL in London, and Dr. Frank Schestag, who is our commercial director for Europe at Proteintech. Really briefly, I'm just going to introduce Proteintech to you as a company in case you're not aware of who we are. So Proteintech is a leading life science reagent company, and we have products which comprise across three core product lines. Through our Proteintech brand, we sell our antibodies and immunoassays. We have antibodies against 13,000 human targets. Through our Humankind brand, we sell our recombinant cytokines and growth factors for use in things like iPSC culture and cell and gene therapies. And through our Chromatech brand, we sell our nanobody-based reagents. And so as the name suggests, these are really small antibodies, which are excellent for immunoprecipitation and super resolution microscopy. One main difference between Proteintech and other antibody suppliers is that we make every antibody ourselves and we only sell directly to the customer. So what we mean by that is that other leading antibody suppliers actually purchase antibodies from other different manufacturers, but these manufacturers aren't exclusively selling to the different resellers. So what can happen is that you, the customer, purchase an antibody against a certain target, find it doesn't work for you, and then buy one from a different company, but you could be buying the same antibody, but it's just labeled differently. So that's where Proteintech comes in. We make sure that we make every antibody ourselves and we cut out the middleman to make sure we only sell direct to you, ensuring that we have all excellent quality and can provide you with the original validation data as well. We like to say that we measure our success by measuring our scientists' success, our customer scientists' success. And we've actually been cited in over 160,000, our products have been cited 160,000 times worldwide, which is incredible. And we were recently awarded the Researchers' Choice Award by CiteAb. So this isn't an award that we paid for or anything. This is something that our researchers voted for us. So really happy that people are enjoying our products and our services. So what are we going to do today? So firstly, we're going to have Dr. Charlie Arber from UCL. He's going to give us an academic perspective looking at postdoc and fellowship interviews. And then after that, we're going to have Dr. Frank Schestag from Proteintech, and he's going to talk about interviews from an industry perspective. So these are the speakers, Charlie and Frank, and I will now hand over to Charlie. So I'll stop sharing and I will, hand over to Charlie.
Okay, I'll share my screen. Thank you, Rebecca. As mentioned, I'm Charlie Arber. I'm at UCL Institute of Neurology. The eagle-eyed of you out there will notice I'm not Professor Tamarin Lashley, who's recovering from surgery. So instead, you'll have me talking to you today about how to succeed in an academic interview, as Rebecca said. Just as a brief outline for the talk, I will give you a bit of background about me and some of my experience in interviews, both as an interviewee and an interviewer. Then I'll tell you a little bit about academic interviews and fellowship interviews, both the format and what to expect, and interspersed within which I'll give some advice and some tips to do well and succeed in interviews. Okay, so I'm Charlie. I work with stem cell models of dementia here in London. And just as a bit of background about me, I finished my master's course in 2008, whereby I started my PhD in London. So that was my first experience of as an academic interviewee. After my PhD, I did something slightly different. I was a policy officer at the Medical Research Council, so I won't talk about that interview because it was slightly different for this secondment. But after that year, I started my postdoc career, whereby I had a few interviews to join, one of which was to join UCL in 2013. So I can talk to you today about my experience there, as well as on the other side of the desk as an interviewer for multiple different roles, so research assistants, PhDs, and postdocs throughout my time here in UCL. And then just in the final couple of slides, I'll talk to you about some fellowship interviews. And I have some experience for junior fellowship applications, and hopefully I can listen to my own advice and have some more interviews in the near future. So academic interviews, what to expect. So the format, generally these will be about 25 minutes long. and what to expect is yourself and 3 panel members. And this is certainly the case at UCL, and I think it's similar around other academic interviews. At UCL, we make sure that it's a diverse panel with men and women on the panel. And the format to expect will be to have quite often a brief presentation of your previous work. So this will just be 5 minutes or something to talk about the projects you've been working on in your last role. After which there'll be some specific discussions about the presentation that you've given. And then it will open up to the main body of the interview, which will be questions from each of the 3 panel members. And what's important to note is that the questions will be set. So they'll be the same for each candidate. This is to make it fair between each candidate, but also for this reason, you can bear in mind that there'll be quite general questions. They won't be specific to you or your background. And so you can imagine quite general questions here. Quite often, the interview will finish with a tour of the lab with some of the team members. So you might leave the interview panel behind and meet some of the lab team. And what's important to note here is that don't switch off at this stage. This will be a chance for you to meet the team and for them to meet you. You can see the techniques and the rooms and the settings. So keep up a positive front, and remember that I put at the bottom here, if you get through to the interview stage, it's about fit. It's not only them interviewing you, you're interviewing them. So will you get along with the team? Will the team get along with you? Is this somewhere that you can see yourself working? So the lab tour can be actually quite an important part of that. At this stage, I'll put in my top 2 tools for success. So the first is the best way to sell yourself and show enthusiasm for the project is to say, why you? Why are you the best person for this role? Why the place? Why are you applying to come where you are? And specifically, why this project? So person, place, and project. If you can say, this is the project I've been waiting for, I'm so excited about it. If you can say, I'm the right person to do this, this really shows your enthusiasm and shows that you really want the role. And I think that helps sell yourself, not only in cover letters and applications, but especially in the interview too. The next tool I can highly recommend is the STAR, the STAR tool. So when answering questions, this will really help you not only structure your answer, but really show what you've done. So this is situation, task, action, and results. So for example, one of the questions you might get is, can you give us an example of when you came up against a tough situation in the lab? So for example, you might say, we had a contamination problem in our cell culture, was the situation. The task was for us to find the source of the contamination. The action, what did you do specifically? So I systematically took out each component. I found that one component was contaminated, and the result was that we replaced that and we solved the contamination problem. I think if you use this tool, it really helps you structure your answer, give the answer about the right length, so you're not going on too long, and show exactly what you've done and why, how to impress the panel that way. Other than that, more generally, I think the best advice I can give is be prepared, be prepared, be prepared. This will involve practicing, especially the presentation that you give. Be really practiced in that, know what you're going to say, because you will be nervous. As well as that, be prepared by researching the lab and researching the role. To do this, find out as much as you can about their current interests, read a recent review from the lab. If you can, speak to people in the lab. And this will really help you have a question around what the work is for the end of the interview. And I think this is what really sets a good interview apart, is knowing a lot about the specifics of the role you're interviewing for. Being prepared in this way will really help you to be calm. And I think this is the best advice I can give. Just try to take your time, be calm, and that's when you can answer questions the best. What I do is I pretend it doesn't matter if I get the role or not. I don't know if this is good advice or not, but if you can say, oh, it's a bonus if I get it, but you know what, if I don't get it, it's fine. It sort of helps you to lessen the anxiety and the nerves. But probably better advice is control what you can control the controllables. Some of the things you can't control, like the other candidates, the questions they ask, but what you can control is arrive early, so you're not in a fluster, you're not late and rushing, dress smartly, keep eye contact with the person who's asking the question, and really importantly, listen to the question. So you're answering what they actually ask, not what you think they're asking. So control the controllables. In terms of some of the specific questions you might get, as I mentioned before, these will be set for each candidate, so they'll be quite vague. List some of your strengths and weaknesses. I think these are things that you can prepare before an interview. I gave an example before of a situation where you overcame a problem. This is a great chance to show off what you did, how you solved a problem, how you thought laterally and used scientific method to overcome a problem. What do you want to do after this role? What do you want to be doing in 5 years? That's another general easy thing. And there also might be project-specific questions. So think about exactly the techniques you'll be doing. For example, in our lab, we work with stem cells. Quite often we need to come in at weekends. So we might say, are you okay with being part of a rota and working at weekends from time to time? And this will just be to prepare the candidate to know what sort of role they're getting themselves into. I was also asked to talk about some of the trickier questions. So if someone says, can you explain your career breaks? The best advice I can give is just be honest. Say you had caring responsibilities, say you were ill. People nowadays are totally fine with this. And if they have a problem with that, you need to think carefully about whether you want to work in that lab. If someone says you've got a small publication record, then talk about the project that you're working on, the next paper that's coming out. Explain that this was your idea. You did all the work for this. It's going to be huge. It's going to be so exciting. I think talk about what's coming next. And finally, if you only have experience at one institute, I think this is a great opportunity to then say, well, this is exactly why I want to come and join your lab. I'm really enthusiastic to bring my experience to this lab and learn this technique from you, and it will benefit us both by coming to this new institute. So as my experience on the panel, I'd have to say I haven't seen any bad interviews, but the best interviews, the people are always very personal, they're friendly and they're calm, you know, they take the time to chat to you, they're not too nervous. But I think the best thing that sets a good interview apart is the background knowledge of what the job is about. If it's not clear from the job advert, think about getting in touch with the person who posted the job description for a bit more background, read around about it and have a question for the end of the interview about the projects. And I think this is really what sets a good interview apart. Not the bad, but the ones that have gone less well, I would say the candidate's always very nervous, which means that they're not listening to the question properly. They answer what they think the panel is going to ask, and then their answers are too long. And I'd go back to the STAR to help structure your answer and have answers about the right length. In the last 2 slides, I'll talk about fellowship interviews, the format for which are really similar. So you'll have a presentation to start with. This can sometimes be really short, like 3 minutes or 5 minutes, sometimes a bit longer, but this is your chance to summarize the project. And again, be prepared. This is something you can control. You can practice this off by heart and you can get it really slick so that you're into the interview, and then before you know it, you're finished and it's done, before you've had a chance to be too nervous. This will be followed by a 20 or 30-minute discussion similar to before. For my interview, it was me and 8 interviewers, all with different backgrounds. So it can be quite nerve-wracking. Just as some of the examples of some of the questions that I got, a lot of it will be technical about the project specifically. Why are you using this technique? Why aren't you using a different technique? Why is this the best technique to use? Have you thought about this control? What are the main controls that are most important to this experiment? You know, quite specific. but also try to prepare big picture answers. So how does this project fit into the literature, into the wider field? How's your research going to change society? You know, if you're working on a disease, how is it going to benefit the people living with that disease? And importantly, why this funder? So sometimes this can be quite hard to answer, but if it's a fellowship, why do you want a fellowship? This might be because it's going to progress my career. This is the next step. This is going to help me transition to independence, something like that. And then, you know, the advice is really similar. Be prepared, be prepared, be prepared. Like Scar from The Lion King. Read your proposal, know it back to front. You'll quite often have peer reviewers' comments, and these will form the basis of the questions you're asked in the interview. So if you can prepare answers to all your reviewers' comments, this will really help prepare you for the questions in the interview. Again, you'll hear who the panel members will be, so research what they're interested in, because most of the time they'll ask questions around what they know, how it affects them, and this can give you an idea of the sort of thing that might be asked. And speak to people who have been previous awardees in your institute or friends of friends, say what to expect, what went well, what went badly. And I think the best advice I can give is have lots of practice, lots of mock interviews. I had 4 or 5. These were sometimes worse than the actual thing. And as I said before, control the controllables, learn your presentation, make it slick, make it impressive. So to conclude, be prepared, I said that before. Try to be calm. It does make a difference to how you come across. It's difficult, but do whatever you can to be calm. Be enthusiastic by showing why you, why here, why this project. Structure your answers using this tool, which I think really helps me. And with that, I'd just like to thank Proteintech for putting on great events during Postdoc Appreciation Week, and I'll hand over to Frank. I'll stop sharing.
Perfect, thanks Charlie. And yeah, thank you so much again for stepping in for Professor Lashley, who was unfortunately unable to be here today, but I think Evan will agree that you were absolutely great too. Now I will introduce Dr. Frank Schestag, who will then introduce himself. Off you go, Frank.
Yeah, hello everybody. I hope you can see the screen, and I will make it so I think we can see everybody. Yeah, my name is Frank Schestag, and thanks a lot. Thanks, Charlie, for this good introduction, for sure, because we are talking both about interviews. Some things are a repetition, but a repetition is always not too bad, right? So I would like to talk a little bit about me, what I did so far in terms of the business career and the academic career. And then out of that, I would like to share with you my experience, which I gained on both sides. So as an interviewer and also being in interviews and applying for different positions. So I studied biology. I did my PhD in biochemistry at the university in Kiel, which is in Germany, very far in the north at the seaside. And as you can see, I'm a passionate windsurfer. So I selected Kiel because it's a capital of windsurfing. I did my postdoc at the Institute of Biochemistry in Bonn. And at that time, I realized for me, and this is maybe also the step where you are at the moment, you know, you're stuck in maybe in your PhD, or you applied already on the first job and you're looking for something different, or you're coming from a postdoc scenario. For me, it was the decision that I had the feeling I was not really being able to be successful in an academic career. So I started to reach out to companies, and 2001, I started for a company, Fermentas GmbH. This was a company being famous for DNA markers, Taq polymerases, and a lot of other enzymes. And I started in the tech support and the product management. I was ending up in sales. I was building up the sales team in Europe and was the sales director for Fermentas. And because we did a good job, Thermo Fisher acquired Fermentas. And in an acquisition, lots of things are changing. So they moved myself, and then I applied on the general manager and site leader position, and I did that. And during the time where we were building up the site, we we're moving from 40 people up to 120, including the sales team. So it's a big progression, and there a lot of interviews happened in different positions, and I will talk about it later. Then Thermo Fisher acquired Life Technologies. I had to close the site, and I moved into a sales director position at Fisher Scientific. Also there, I hired 10 positions newly. So I started with 75, I ended up with 85. And then I moved internally with Thermo Fisher in a senior sales director position of the central region, where I managed 65 people. But in sales, it's very important what you have as a revenue responsibility, and that was 240 million, so quite a big responsibility. And then I stopped with a big Thermo Fisher giant, and I moved to Proteintech, and I'm building up there the team since 2019. I hired so far 15 people, also lots of interviews for that. And I'm really happy to be and working for Proteintech. It's a lot of fun, and I can gain from all of the experience I made in my academic and business career. So my hiring and interview experience, when Rebecca was asking me, or came up with the idea that I should give you this lecture here, I was calculating roughly that I performed about 180 interviews in my career in the last 20 years, being in the life science business in different positions. And I also applied on a couple of positions, and I was thinking about how many times I was ending up on the number one. And that was quite on a high level, because I was taking all of them very serious. And on the left side, you can see what I hired, or what I was involved in hiring: the position of sales and account managers, regional managers, tech support, customer service. Being a site leader, you have to deal with all of the aspects of a fully functional site. So you have HR, you have marketing, you have finance and logistics. And I applied on different positions: account manager, product manager, regional manager, tech support leader, sales and marketing, and afterwards the big position: sales director, senior sales director, and general manager and site leader. So looking at that, I can, out of this experience, extract the main important things, I think, which are giving you a good indicator for being successful in an interview. And I selected 4 different points. So the first one in your preparation should be that you know and find a lot of information regarding the company. At the end of the day, this job will be like a marriage. So you are spending a lot of time in doing that job of your day, and maybe also of sleepless nights. I hope less than that. But you need to know what the company is, and if the company is fitting to that, what you are expecting. That's really important. The second thing is the people. You need to know who is going to interview you. Charlie described different scenarios, and he described a kind of formalized way how the interviews are, and to make it equal, to have all of the same questions. In the business world, this differs a lot. It can be an assessment center. It can be 5 to 6 interviews you have to go through. But it's always important to identify who you are talking to and what these people are doing, right? The third thing, and I'm going more into details into these points. The third thing is question to ask at the day of the interview. And you should be really prepared. Prepare your questions regarding the company, the position in the market, the team you were working with, and the vision of the team. And the fourth thing, yes, there are always upcoming questions. Maybe they are icebreaker questions. Maybe they are questions where the interviewer will give you the chance to have a prepared question and make your pitch there, right? So you have to be prepared. The general interview questions, the stories, what you did so far, and something important, you are leaving either the academic, or if you're applying on the second or on the third job, you are leaving this job, and you have a good story why you are leaving. That's an important question which will definitely come, right? So on the next slides, I'm going a little bit more on the company aspect. So on the websites, and you will find a lot of information. You can find something about the company culture, especially the big ones. They have and present their vision, their mission statement, that you understand the workplace, right? That's an important thing. The history and the recent news, look at the press releases, look at the collaborations. Is there something going on in this company? Is the research changing? They're releasing a lot of people? Are they restructuring? Do they have financial challenges? That's something you need to know regarding the company. The portfolio is also important. Is the portfolio really good? Do they have good products? How is the value proposition of the products, the unique selling points and the top sellers? And as I mentioned already, the team, what is the size of the team you will work in? How many reporting lines your supervisor will have? What are the people in the team? Because these are your colleagues, these are your peer group. They are helping you or not helping you at the end to be successful, and to need to know a little bit about the turnover rate, how many people left recently. For sales, the competitors positioning in the market, sales target growth, that's also an important thing. Any sales has targets and a growth perspective. To look at that in a realistic way would be a good question. The financials, feedback, you can always reach out to people who work for this company or are working for the company, connect with them in LinkedIn and ask them to get more information. And then it's useful to look at the leaders. Where do they come from? What do they have in terms of background? View at the profiles and look at the executives, but this is more true for bigger companies, right? The second point, you will find a lot of information regarding the people who are interviewing you. So it's always good to look at that and be sure of if the one is taking it serious, they are looking at your profiles too. They search for you on LinkedIn, they search for you on the social media and look what you are presenting there. So why you're doing it, not vice versa, and see if you identify some similarities with yourself. That's not a must, but it's good to know, right? If you are sharing something with them, it would be good to know. And think about what you can tell about yourself and might be interesting for the interviewer, and those what they are posting and those what they are engaged with, they are also interested in, right? The third thing are the questions about the company. What is the future aspiration of the company? What skill sets do I need for the job? And maybe also in the future, and how these skill sets are taking a part and a role in the future vision of the company. Training is always a good one, because you might have the skill sets already, but you know, skill sets are one thing, but training and make them even better is the other thing. And any bigger company, they do have training programs, so ask for them. How will the training look like? What are the timelines? That's a good question to ask. And the job descriptions are very frequently pretty packed, and you are more or less scared when you're reading them, because you said, oh, they are looking for an ideal super duper candidate. You know, nobody is matching all of the points in the job description. And if you don't understand them really right, ask for it in the interview, and ask them to describe the ideal candidate, and then match those things which you are bringing with you. As already said, preparation is really important, and I would really not go to an interview before I made my mindset in such a way that I'm going there because I want to get the job. I want to win the job. This is your mindset and your attitude, why you are going there, and to make sure in the interview that you are the right candidate. This is something what you should prepare and maybe mock also in the beginning, but you go there because you think you are the candidate. Don't go there with the attitude to say, yeah, maybe I'm maybe this is a good job, I don't know it, that will not work. So if you are on the number one, you can make the decision afterwards if you take the job or not, but go there with that mindset. Write down your question, be prepared, ask them if you can pull up your iPad or your piece of paper where you were writing down the questions and read them from the paper. Show that you are prepared. Imagine yourself in the job. Psychology is really important, an important factor in any kind of human being interactions, and an interview is a very special one of that, right? So try to be very positive. Try to show that you are engaged, and at the end, the mindset to win this and to get the job is really important. And if you can be relaxed with all of that, it's a really good way to see it. That. But for me personally, I only can be relaxed when I'm really good prepared, right? Then you can sit down and say, I excluded most of the unexpected things, what could happen in those interviews, making yourself in a relaxed position. The competency questions, and Charlie already addressed the START format, so I will not go into this detail anymore to save some time, but the employers are looking for, are you a team worker, how resilient you are, did you have some tools to solve conflict and special and difficult situations, and are you maybe also thinking about to be in a leadership position at the beginning. So use this STAR format and create a story upfront and train the story. And try to stick to that format because it's a very easy one when you are briefing it in and out. As we said, general questions are always coming, right? So why not to prepare them upfront? Why you are leaving the current job? I addressed that already. Are you sure you want to leave academia? I know Rebecca was let's say, going through this pain from our supervisor and owner of the Proteintech company. He was asking her that questions, and she had to answer it as far as I remember. What makes you suitable for the job? All of these things you can think about upfront. Why you want to work for this company, right? Where you would like to be in 2 to 5 years now, and be sure of that not everybody wants to be or should be ending up in the leadership position. That is not a requirement. That can happen, but it's absolutely fine when you said, I'm applying on this job and I want to stick and learn in this job to be really very good in the next 3 to 5 years. Nothing against that. How would you deal with difficult customer situation or in general with conflicts in the team or maybe also with the supervisor? Make up your mind around that. And think about what is important to you. What was a situation you didn't like in the previous situation? Maybe also the reason why you left the job. You can be very open with that, right? And things you are liking on that, what you did so far, you can also express. And that's a very old-fashioned, but anytime reoccurring questions. What are your weaknesses and strengths? The question is maybe asked not to really find out that you have a weakness. Nobody has a real weakness, but this is a question which is provoking that somebody is definitely prepared on the question and to have a story around and try to answer this particular question positive for both things. So you don't have a weakness. You have something to tell regarding a possible weakness and a strength, but put them both in a positive way. And as we already said, preparation is the key. You should train your presentation several times. Take the time, have a look at if you are holding the time in the right window. Don't overdo it, but don't do it too less. If they give you 15 minutes for a presentation, stick to the 15 minutes, absolute exactly. And this can be done when you are training it and really looking at it. Practice, answer, and question. You can do it in front of the mirror. You can do it in mock interviews with friends and families. Don't underestimate that. As more frequently you are testing and training it, as less nervous you are, And if the nervous part is turning in excitement, that you are saying, oh, I'm so good prepared, I'm sitting there, I'm the expert, nobody can really put me onto a hot surface or into a bad situation, then you are in a very good mood and very good prepared. And get used to the STAR format, which is a really helpful tool to answer special questions to your behavior. And in the last two slides, I would like to focus a little bit on which candidates in these really a lot of interviews I selected at the end. And it's important that you are authentic and honest. You should be yourself there. Don't play any role, because if you are playing a role, you have to play it for the whole career or for the whole job you are then into it. Don't do it. Be yourself. Prepare yourself excellently and have a good story to tell. What the interviewer is definitely looking at, how good is this person fitting into the team I'm hiring for? So the personality that would gel with the team in a very good way is can be a successful candidate. That might be not you, but give the interviewer the chance to make that judgment, right? And to show all of the aspects of yourself. Someone who would be also successful quickly. When you are hiring for a sales region, you have to be very successful, because the open position might be because of a lever, or you're opening up a new position. So you need to generate revenue quite quickly. That's also an aspect of it. Those who inspired me and impressed me were really successful. But this is not true for all of the leaders. Those who could challenge me also be successful, because at the end of the day, you need to have a very diverse team. And if you want to have a high performing team, it needs to be diverse, but it needs to be also including candidates who are challenging you, because you also need to improve and get better. And that was one of my personal things, which isn't true for maybe beginning people in the leadership. They are hiring normally people which couldn't challenge them to have an easier life, but that's just out of my experience. And the bad examples, they were unprepared, they were unsure if the positions was the right one for them, and they expressed that also in the interview. That's not a good way to do this. Low knowledge regarding the company or the portfolio, no questions or no good questions prepared, struggling to answer the easy questions. Those needs to come like this, right? Took it too easy. The willingness to get the job was missing. And as it's a repetition, they were not authentic. And that's really something you should be, because you can't play the role for a longer time. And final thoughts. As I mentioned, the job description is so fully packed that the ideal candidate, which is matching all of the tick boxes, that's not existing. But the one with the highest potential to be successful in the open position will make it. So don't be scared if you just have 30% of all of the tick boxes or all of the points in the job description matched. For sure, if you are working and go for a French position, you should have a native speaking French skill set on board. That's mandatory. But some things are not really mandatory. So don't be scared. Try it out, but be honest and be yourself. Ask for the feedback. That's also something I always found very useful. I did it by myself, and I liked it a lot when the candidates were asking at the end of the interview, and only those who think the interview went well are asking that for sure. But ask for an immediate feedback and give an immediate feedback if you like the interview. Ask for the next steps and send a follow-up email the next day where you were sleeping over it to the interviewer and said, I like the interview. I really want to get this job. And I think I'm matching a lot of things we discussed. and answered them very positively. So sending up a follow-up email. And if you are really trusting yourself, which is always important, you can also try to call, right? If you are so enthusiastic and if you really want to have this job and you know that you are the best, give the interviewer a call. And at the end of the day, don't be disappointed if you don't get the position, right? It's always a learning curve. And what I'm always doing or did in my career, and I'm also teaching that to my team, if they have a sales pitch and if they're coming out of a customer discussion, reflect directly after the interview what you have missed, what you could have done better to be better prepared for the next interview, and work on that. So these are the things I wanted to share with you, and I'm giving back to Rebecca to open up the questions, right? Okay.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Frank. That was really, really useful. And I hope other people found it useful as well. We've been answering as we've got an incredible number of questions. Thank you so much for your interaction. I've got some up here that I think will be beneficial to everyone. We've tried to answer as many as we can in the chat, but I will email other people back with questions as well. So I've got one good question for Charlie, and it's from Catherine Eels. And she said, for a fellowship interview, since you are not applying for a specific position as if it is your own research proposal, what questions would you suggest to ask the interview panel?
Yeah, difficult ones. I thought quite hard about this before my interviews, and I think about things outside your project as well. So are there other ways to get involved with the funder? Is it a charity? Can you get involved with outreach? Can you engage with the public? Is there training that they offer, mentorship, things like that? So I would say show that you're not just here to do the project, you're also willing to help out in other ways, and I think that can only be a positive thing.
Great, thanks, Charlie. And then one, I think, for both of you, and this is actually a really good question because I think it might apply to a lot of people, and it's from Chloe, and she says, if I don't have the exact skill set described in the job advert, but I still got called to an interview, how can I emphasize my willingness to learn or overlap with the skills in my interview? Frank, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, as I said, nobody is really matching all of the points in the job description. And if you can describe a situation where you were adapting very fast to a situation, or where you are gaining skill sets which you didn't had very fast, and this is let's say a skill set of yourself, I would go to these interviews and really say, I'm not absolutely an expert in that area, but I can learn fast, and I'm definitely willing to bring the skill set on board. I'll give you one example of my very, very early things. I got the permission, and at that time you had to qualify yourself to be in the biochemistry department and do your diploma at that time in the biochemistry department. And I was going through an exam, and it was really good. But then I was standing in front of my future supervisor, and I told him, you know what? I passed the exam here, I did it, but I'm not really very good skill set in doing biochemistry because that's something new for me. But you can be sure of that I will use every single day to gain the knowledge to be a good diploma for you. And what the guy did, he said, oh, that's unusual. We will take you, but before you are starting, you have 4 weeks time to prepare yourself. Here is at that time the Straya, Lubert Straya. The book is maybe existing still and you're learning it, but he said, you have to be able, and we will test you every Friday on the chapters of this one. And you know, you just have to show the willingness and the excitement to learn that what you don't have. Nobody is perfect in all of that. You know, yeah. That's just advice for me.
That's really useful. Thanks, Frank. And then I think one from Savita, which I think both of you can answer. And I know I've had this question a lot put to me before, is How difficult is it to move from an academic career to an industry after more than 8 to 10 years of doing a postdoc? Is it smart to move companies or careers so late in life?
I think Frank might be best placed to answer this, but I certainly from the people that I work with, lots of my colleagues have moved to industry that late with 2-3 postdocs experience. I think it depends on the opportunities, your skills. Is it something that you can transfer to industry that they'd be willing to, they'd be keen to take on? I don't know what you think, Frank. Is that a good answer?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Don't hesitate. If you have the feeling that the academic career is not progressing and you do want to do something else, the companies do have positions where you can leverage all what you have learned in your academic career. You know, you learned a lot of techniques. You are a specialist in the area you were doing research on. You can leverage this in a lot of fields in the technical support, also in the marketing. You can apply on these type positions. And even I hired people who were longer time in postdoc positions in sales, because you can have a scientific sales pitch, which is ideal. You need to understand what they are doing. If you can, be a partner in this sales activity, understanding what they are doing, giving them maybe also an advice, what would be helpful to bring them further out of that, what you experienced already, that's ideal. So don't be shy and don't think that the career in the business is over when you have a couple of years postdoc experience. So that's not the case. So there are many, many positions where this is an advantage against those who are coming as a youngster.
Oh, thanks, Frank. I think that's probably quite reassuring to many people, actually. And then I have another question, which is from Nabise, and she says, do we need to be honest about our questions, about especially weaknesses? So she said, how do you share your weakness without making it sound like you are picking yourself apart or giving a positive disguised as a weakness?
Try to put as much thought into these sort of answers as you can. It can look quite contrived if you say, oh, I work too hard, so that's a weakness. But if you can say something specific to you and you're addressing it, or for example, sometimes I'm too picky with the details. Sometimes I just need to jump in to the end. You can say, I believe a lab needs both types of personalities, someone who's really into the details and someone who's big picture, and I'm working to think big picture. So it's difficult. Try to think of something specific to you and put a positive spin on how you're changing it, how you're trying to address this weakness. And if you understand that you've got this weakness, that's really good self-awareness and comes across well, I think.
Great. Frank, do you have anything to add, or shall I? I've got many more questions.
I was thinking about that also many times. So when I'm putting myself on the spot, I'm very impatient, which can be a complete weakness because you are bothering people with that. But on the other end, when you are impatient, you are trying to nail things down, which is an advantage when you are doing and want to, let's say, get to a result in sales, getting the right numbers in, getting some other things done. So you can put this weakness to be impatient into a positive spin and said, it was helping me to understand, to drive things faster, but without bothering other people. So that might be a disadvantage from the birding itself, but you can put it into a positive spin that you said, impatient sounds bad, but it isn't if you put some, let's say, examples to it where you said, I wanted to nail this down. I was making it clear to the team. I was motivating them with that, but behind is the impatientness. You can pack that differently and make it a positive spin. I hope that was a good example for that.
Yeah, I think
maybe another example, like sometimes you can say, I'm not very good at saying no to things. I say, yes, I take on lots of new projects, but for this reason, I've got lots of collaborations and lots of these projects are progressing. And some of this builds my scientific network, which is only a positive thing. So something like that, find the positives in the weaknesses.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
I have another question, which I think is probably more for Frank. It's from Bernadette, who asks, what kind of things are considered positive on a LinkedIn profile for an interviewer? What do they like to see when they look up your profile?
When I'm looking them up, you know, there are many LinkedIn profiles where you can automatically see that they are not used. If you have one, what you're not using, delete it, because that's something what you should not have. You should, if you are making the decision to, you know, post something of your private or business career, you should do it in a very good way. So have a good explanation what you did. You know, work on the profile, look at other profiles which are similar, at the similar state of yours, and copy and paste things and make them better while you are posting. But work on the LinkedIn profile on a really good way, and don't have a half-ready one posted, because that's making a bad impression, right? I worked quite heavily on mine. I should have, and this was a couple of years before, because I didn't add it, I just added the new positions, but you can have a look at it. You can also connect with me if you like. I'm more than happy to answer questions on this, but a half-done one or something what is not really ready is something what is a bad point when somebody is looking at that. And make sure that the whole history of where you are and where you have been and what you achieved is somehow addressed there. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I think just to add from my experience, think of your LinkedIn profile like an online CV. Have everything on there that you can, and you're obviously willing to have to the public, but a lot more people will be looking at it who are really interested and might actually find you through your LinkedIn profile for jobs that aren't even visible on the internet yet. So do really think, especially this is more for industry, not necessarily for academia, but if you are looking to move into industry, then LinkedIn is a really excellent tool, especially if you were like me, a PhD student, and you didn't know where to start. I would say LinkedIn really helped me there. I think I have one last question before we can sort of close out the event. And this one is for Avinash. Sorry if I said that wrong. She has an excellent question that a lot of people will be asking, and that is, I don't have the best publication record. She says that she's excellent in the lab and has other soft skills, but she's worried about not having a publication record and trying to get into a good postdoc or a good company after her PhD. What advice do we have for her here? Charlie, do you want to go first about a postdoc with no publications?
I think I made the point, try to impress them with the projects that you have been working on. Try to take ownership of those projects. So I saw this particular result and I thought this was amazing. So I drove that forward. We're working on more figures to complete this project, and hopefully we'll have the story complete next year. Try to make it impressive, try to show what you have done. And, you know, lots of fields, you don't publish for 3 years. A project takes 3 years to get to a manuscript stage. And that'll be the same for everyone in your field. You know, it's different in genetics from cell biology, for example. So talk about what you have done in a positive way and make the most of it. That way, try to impress them with what you have done.
Yeah, and I want to add, if I'm asking myself honestly, if I really looked at publication for anybody I hired in a sales position, in a marketing position, that was not of interest for me, to be honest. If you are applying on a position in the industry, like you're working for a pharma company or a biotech company, and you're matching the topic, what they are looking for, then it's maybe helpful to have additional publication on it. But it's, in all of the cases, the skill sets you have if you don't have a publication, you have to focus on other things you are bringing within the team. Emphasize if you build up a big network. So I was a big networker when I was starting my study. Without the other people in my surrounding, I wouldn't have survived studying biology. So I was bringing people together. That's a very good skill set, which is counting maybe for the position even more than a publication, because you can do research on a topic which is very important in the next 10 years, and you do not have a publication for it, but the topic was important and your contribution to that was important, right? So I wouldn't judge that and put that as a barrier for you and on a too high level for you that you say, oh, I'm not applying on this because I don't have a publication. Don't do this. Try to focus on other things, what you could bring and contribute to that position, and be successful and make them successful with what you are doing for them.
Okay, thank you so much, both of you. I think that was really excellent answers. And again, thank you so much to the audience for posting all the brilliant answers, questions. I really enjoy this interaction, and we're really grateful that everyone is watching and enjoying the webinar as well. I just have a few closing slides so I can talk to you a little bit about the company and about some free samples. So Frank, do you want to go to the next one? Yeah, so as well as these webinars that we have for careers and things like that, we also have technical application workshops. So that might be things like Western blot or immunofluorescence. We also do lots of travel grants, so do keep an eye out for whether or not you can apply to us so that we can help you get to your preferred conference. We also do things like postdoc mentor awards. All this information is on our website. Frank, if you go to the next slide. Thanks. Yeah, so just briefly talk about a bit about our reagents that we sell. So as everyone knows, we sell antibodies, and I'll be able to send you a link into how you can get a free sample of our antibodies. Our antibodies are made in-house, and we have things like directly conjugated correlates as well. We also have ELISA kits and IHC Easy kits, which you can find more information about on our website. Next slide, please. In addition to our Proteintech brand, we have Humankind. So through our Humankind, we can sell our recombinant cytokines and growth factors. So these are actually HEC293 express, which is a human cell. So this means that they have human native folding, post-translational modifications, and glycosylation. And this means that they actually have much better activity. So you can see in this IL-2 actually has 40 times more bioactivity than leading competitors. And then we also have our Chromatech reagents. So these are nanobodies based from the heavy chain binding domain of an alpaca heavy chain antibody. And these are excellent for immunoprecipitation. So we have our GFP trap, which pulls down GFP tag proteins, and also our nanosecondaries, which allow for excellent resolution in immunofluorescence. And then in the last slide, thank you so much. A recording will be sent to everyone, as well as a certificate of attendance. You can also apply for a free sample through this email. Please do check your junk mail, because we have to send it in a sort of mass format, and some institution emails don't like this. So I know a few people often don't get the recording or the certificate of attendance, but do be patient, wait a week, and if you don't find it, then please do email events@p2glab.com. Thank you for your thanks in the chat. I'm glad that everyone enjoyed it. Thank you so much for attending, and we'll let you know when we host more of these. And good luck with your interviews. And again, thank you to the panel. Bye, everyone.
Good luck. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.